Is it time to quit driving? When to make that difficult decision? Welcome to Agerville, my hometown, where many of us live longer than average, and some even a decade or more. We know there are many difficult decisions to make as we age, and we do a pretty good job most of the time. You may be aware by now that a red screen is a warning sign, not one of an upcoming holiday. Today's decade challenge is car safe car rather than home safe home. It's also related to the challenge of decide and abide. Another example of the interconnections among all challenges of the positive ager lifestyle. I suspect that some of us spend as much or more time in our auto throughout the year as we do during non-sleeping hours at home. We've become immune to the extreme dangers of driving ourselves and of actions by other drivers. In 2022, over 42,000 deaths occurred from car accidents, and more than 7,500 were pedestrians just walking along the street. Aging increases the odds that we will be one of them. This will be one of the most difficult videos for me to make because of some very personal reasons, which I will describe. But aside from that, making a decision not to drive anymore is a major life choice for anyone. It's giving up a freedom we've taken for granted since our teens. For most of us, driving has been a way of life. I've rolled over most of North America, from central Mexico to the Arctic Circle in Alaska. I've driven in every state of the Union, including Hawaii. Also, I've seen most of populated Canada by car. Besides leisure traveling, we drive for very important survival reasons, like buying groceries and getting to the doctor and dentist. Countless other errands require driving, many just for maintaining a car, like getting it washed and serviced and heading to Costco for gas. Of course, we like to meet with friends and attend social functions and other entertainment options. Sometimes we just enjoy taking a drive to explore our surroundings. Studies show that most people stop driving from the mid-70s to their mid-80s. The reality of slowing reaction times and loss of visual and hearing acuity catch up with us. Sometimes side effects of medications and possible drowsiness tell us it's time to stop driving. Maybe we get lost more than we used to, along with some other signs of cognitive decline. It's not easy to envision life without our cars. Unfortunately, many of us keep driving longer than we should. Driving is as important to me as walking, and it'll be very difficult to give up my keys. But I know the time is coming, perhaps sooner than I would like. But probably not by incapacity, more likely by choice, because I know the dangers of driving as we age. I think I'll be ready to hand over my car keys at the right time. And here's why. I need to tell my story. It's a story about my parents and an elderly lady who should have given up driving many years before she was forced to stop. She accidentally killed my father and seriously injured several others. I was fortunate not to lose my mother as well. It started with an evening call from my mother, who was then in her late 70s. It was February the 29th, 2000. Yes, a leap year. 2 weeks after my father's 80th birthday. She told me my father had been in a serious accident and did not survive. She was distraught, but holding back her emotions. I didn't press her for details because I knew it would open the floodgate to emotions that would probably be overwhelming. After sharing 60 years with this man, Albert Humphrey, I told her I would see her in the morning. I was living and working as a school psychologist in the Riverside area east of Los Angeles. They lived in the retirement community of Sun City West, Arizona, 6 or 7 hours away by car. I knew I wouldn't sleep, so I threw some items in a suitcase and left about 10 p.m. I began to wonder what happened, and I just assumed he was probably driving and either caused an accident or was a victim. Outside of Wickenburg, Arizona, about 3 or 4 in the morning, I had to pull over and got a couple hours sleep. I stopped at a Circle K for a cup of coffee. When paying the cashier, I glanced at the Morning Arizona Republic, a newspaper I delivered as a kid, and saw the pictures and headlines. I then found out what happened. I was stunned. I hurriedly drove for almost another hour to my parents' house. The TV cameras were waiting. I declined comment, and fortunately they left. My first priority was to assist and comfort my mother. Then there were many family contacts to make, mostly in Michigan. My 2 sisters also lived out of state and would soon land at Sky Harbor Airport. Let's step back a little so I can set the stage for what happened. My parents had lived in the Sun City area since the early 1970s. They were both serious hobbyists. My father was into lapidary work and jewelry making and was an avid rock hound. My mother, Dora, was a largely self-taught landscape artist whose painting hobby became a career as Dodie, her preferred professional name. She sold dozens of paintings each year at community art sales and referrals. Often they would both go to the same sale with their creations. This is where they were, near the Safeway store off Camino del Sol in Sun City West, a mile or so from their home on February the 29th, 2000. It was mid-afternoon when my mother decided to go home for a rest with a plan to return later since the sale was scheduled to end around sunset. There were probably a dozen or more other sellers and numerous people wandering in the area. Shortly after getting home, my mother heard sirens and then a helicopter. She rushed back to the shopping area where the sale was and was able to piece together events from bystanders and first responders. A lady, later found to be 93 years old, had lost control of her vehicle and plowed through the unbarricaded sales area, hitting several vendors. My father was caught under her car and dragged to his death several feet from a bank. Incidentally, he was a retired bank manager. Others were seriously injured, but there were no other deaths. My mother had been spared from injury or more by a coincidence, since they usually sat near one another, literally as well as figuratively, for most of their lives. I could go on with further details of this tragedy, but I'm not going to. This is why I think I'll know when it's time to stop driving, and will say goodbye to this vital and satisfying activity. I hope this story will help you choose to make the appropriate decision at the proper time as well. I've got some photos in the links below for those who wish to examine more details about this event in my life and family. In a follow-up video, I'll discuss the critical role caregivers, can play in helping loved ones hand over their keys. Not all of us will make that choice voluntarily. I'll also talk about a vehicle incident that took another family member. I need to get this out and say a final goodbye. Time to let it all go. Humpty here, reliving a lot of painful emotions, but realizing chance circumstances as well as intentional planning can impact our lives and the lives of others. Let's choose wisely and hope for the best.